it's kept you from considering a similar fate?
Yeah,
Absolutely.
totally. I've had some rough times, and a lot of them caused by the loss of Phil, and the flow-on effect it has through your life. You develop quirks and you develop reactions to things that you don't fully understand yourself, and I've had a lot of counselling to try and understand some of my reactions to things in life and overreactions, and very often it goes back to what I went through, and I've got mechanisms and defences in my personality that are built around that experience, and that I've got to try and undo. I've got to try and get rid of them. But I just, as I say, I don't think I've ever had a moment where I've thought that I wanted to take my own life. But there were times going through the loss of Phil where I wished I had that option, purely to end what I was feeling like. But I didn't have that option because it's catastrophic. It changes everybody around that person. It changes their life permanently, and it changes the way you think about things. There's some ways in which it changes you for the good, because you become more aware and more sensitive of other people's emotions and feelings, and there's some ways that it changes you that you don't understand yourself. That I continue to deal with it now.
One common thing that I've heard is that that there seems to be some sort of survivor guilt, a blame. I should have seen, I should have done, and this complete wonderment at why.
Both of those are very, very true and apply to me in a huge way. Some of the counselling that I did was to let go of guilt, but I couldn't stop it, and also helped me to realise that I've developed things in my personality where I feel like if someone I care about is having a hard time, I have to be able to fix it, and if I can't fix it, I get angry because I can't fix it, and it goes back to the fact that I felt I failed. And 20 years later, I've finally come to the conclusion it wasn't my fault, and I tried. Once I knew I did everything I could, it was too late. But it took 20 years to come to the realisation that it wasn't my decision. He knew I loved him, he knew we all loved him. And I've always said, and I think it's a common phrase, that it's a permanent solution to a temporary problem. And life gets rough at times. As I said, mine's gotten rough in many ways, some to do with that and some not. When you're unhappy and when you're having a hard time, it's not so much to let it defeat you, but it's what was put to me was to accept that I'm unhappy. Okay, this is a part of my life I'm not enjoying. I'm not very happy. That's the way it is at the moment. And I found that through being able to do that, it actually takes the sting out of it. And the beauty of hindsight when you've got a few years on you is that some parts of life aren't a lot of fun. But as Dad said to me, this too shall pass. You might be having a good time in life, it'll pass. You might be having a bad time in life, it'll pass. Life keeps changing.
But again, and I don't think you're alone with this, as someone affected by suicide, the tears aren't bitter now, but there are still tears.
Yeah. I definitely, I spoke to a friend the day of Phil's death. I bumped into a friend who had been through his best friend's suicide right in front of him. Saw the whole thing happen about a year previous. And I just said to him, I said, how do you get through this? And he just said, you're going to have a whole lot of bad days. He said, you're going to have a whole lot of bad days. And he said, but sooner or later you're going to have a good day. And he said, you'll almost feel guilty about it. You'll get to the end of the day and realise that you've enjoyed your day and like feel like how dare I enjoy that day sort of thing. And that does happen. And gradually you have more and more good days, but there's always bad days. There's definitely always bad days. But again, I've come to accept it. I've come to accept that that's part of my life. There's going to be days that I'm sad about it, that I'm pissed off about it, that that I'd still do anything to change it. But it does get better. I firmly believe it's not something you get over, it's something you learn to live with. Yeah.
You're a musician, how has the music helped?
A lot. For a year after Phil's death, I rejected music. I rejected anything that I drew any kind of pleasure from. And music's a really big thing for me. And then I started to get back into music. I met someone who became a very, very good friend, and I started working on writing a song as a tribute for Phil, and she threw herself right into it and backed me up on it, and we ended up recording the song, and that for me was a very therapeutic and very healing thing to actually, it was a way of spewing it all out, for want of a better term, of cleansing. It was cleansing. Yeah, it was a way of getting it out, and it's still now. There's times where I'm having a hard time dealing with it, and I'll go and put that song on and let it upset me.
Anyone contemplating suicide, what would you say to them?
If you're contemplating it, you can't have much of an idea of the devastation that act will cause. If there's people you care about, what you're about to put them through is worse. Believe me, it's way worse than anything you're feeling. Not belittling what you're feeling, but you're going to devastate everybody you care about. And that is something that they're going to carry with them for the rest of their lives. If you care about them, then chances are they care about you, and ask them for help. If you don't get help from them, ask somebody else for help. You'd be surprised. There's times I've asked for help, and there's always someone out there that's willing to help. You just can't unleash that kind of devastation on people you care about.
These are wounds that don't heal.
No, they don't. You live with them. You learn to limp. I consider my life a good thing, but that is one dent that I have had put in me that is there forever. I just can't stress strongly enough that if you haven't had the experience of losing someone in that way, if you haven't had it up close and personal, you have no idea how much damage you're going to cause. And I don't know if this is a good way to put it, but the collective damage that you're going to cause is far more than the damage at the end of your own life. You permanently damage God knows how many lives. The whole thing, this too shall pass. If you might be at your lowest moment, stick with it. Tomorrow might be the best day you ever had. It won't be if you're not hearing it.